Don't think it's up yet. Here we go. Okay. All right, I think we're on. I think it's working this time. Let me know if it's working, Mark Lavelle. Hey, I don't know what the problem was. And I've gone bigger screen this time. Not like a huge screen, but bigger than what it was last time. So I don't know what the go was last time, but it wasn't working. All right, looks like we're all good now. They're ready to go. All right, thanks. Hey, Terry. It was good to see you on that live feed last night too. I only saw a little bit of you. I've got to go back and rewatch it. Hello, Mrs. G. All good from your end? Wixie says it's all good. Lukey reads on champion. Shutdown restart. I do it all the time. This is the first issue I've ever had with StreamYard. I don't know. I didn't really do anything different. So anyway, it's working now, so that's good. So I'll just give it a moment for it. Hopefully a few of those people that were on before will jump back on. And I'll explain why I'm doing a live feed. Nothing interesting, just mainly just because. Also, I better put that link up if people want to join in. Give me a moment, just get the link. There it is. Hopefully everyone's had a good weekend. It's wet again down here. We've had a really wet couple of weeks. The ground is absolutely saturated, like you walk and it's all squishy. The puddles are just starting to ease off, and now we've got rain again. We had a little bit of rain this morning. It stopped during most of the day. The clouds around, and now it's back raining again. Better off than the opposite, but it's still, yeah, extremely wet and muddy. And coming into winter now, things are not going to dry off, and it's going to be a bit of a wet and muddy winter by the looks of it. All right. Had a few other people that were on before that haven't jumped back on, whether they have given up or whether they don't have it notified or whatever. All right. Now we've got 10 on. Anyway, oh, that's right. On the other one, I had a question on there. I better put that back up. Just give me a moment. What was your favorite kids' TV shows? Oh, no, 1 second. Let's word that better. What was your favorite TV shows as a kid before 12 years old? A lot of things I'm going to talk about tonight, depending on how the conversation goes, is things I've spoken about with people today and yesterday. Dave Allen, he was that comedian guy. I remember my dad showing me that. Cop Shop, heard of it, never seen it. Benny Hill, classic. Obviously a lot of the stuff that Benny Hill did was inappropriate, but at the same time you knew it was comedy, so you just go with it. And I think that's part of our problem these days, which is something else I'm going to touch on this evening. Boris Breakfast Club. No idea what that is. But that's what I like. I like people sharing about what they, a bit of information about things about them and what they like and what they did. Been out cooking some rib fillets over charcoal. Oh, is it not pissing down rain up there? I was gonna do a little bit of a cook up this weekend, but the rain is just shit. And we had a big feed at work on Friday, which sort of killed my motivation. TV wasn't invented. Sorry. I should have thought about the Queenslanders when I was asking that question. You're in the shed. What charcoal are you using? Someone was saying something about that coconut charcoal last time I was talking to him. I haven't cooked with charcoal yet. I've done wood and I've done heat beads. I haven't touched the charcoal. It's something I should look at doing this winter. Speaking of winter, who has, well, once again, not reading the Queensland audience here at all, but who has started their fires? I know a few people in New South Wales have started their fires up in the last couple of weeks. It's not super cold here just yet, but I would imagine we're only a week or two away. Well, because it's only a week or two away from winter, that we'll be lighting ours. Freddie. Here we go. You all left me talking to myself. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with StreamYard before. No sound, and the camera view was like half the size of what it should be. Is that saying yes that you have started your fire? You're on the coast. You shouldn't have to start your fire yet. Olive pip charcoal is great. Interesting. Haven't heard of that one. Here we go. What's Buck saying? I use lump charcoal, but I rate that coconut charcoal in the blue bag from Bunnings. What's the difference between heat beads and charcoal, like with cooking? Does it last longer? Does it cook better? Like, what's the benefits besides environmental factors? I look cold. Yeah, it's funny. Well, it's not funny actually, because I was colder earlier where had a bit of a breeze here and it was a bit cold. So I've got a couple jumpers on, but it's actually not too bad at the moment. We started getting rain about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and it's not too bad. The wood is soaked. My plan this weekend was to go and cut a load of wood ready to go. Nah, too wet. It's bad enough getting up the paddock to keep being there to cut it while trying to get dry weather. People saying hello to each other. Yeah, I can't wait to have a fire. It's the only thing I really enjoy about winter is fires. Yeah, that's the only thing I enjoy about winter. I'd sooner the heat over the cold, but yeah, love having a fire. I was going to have a fire tonight, but then it's supposed to be raining 10 to 20 mils here. Yes, back again. Thanks, Jack, for coming back. Good. I was just saying before on the other live feed, but you couldn't hear me. I could hear myself, so it was a great conversation. I was just saying I'm about halfway through watching Buck's live feed from last night, where you've just come on. So I'll keep going, putting it on in half an hour blocks at the moment. I was a bit annoyed that I missed that, but that was just the reality of Friday afternoon. I think just by the time I got home, it was ending. Lump charcoal. When you say lump charcoal, is that lump as in like it's actual wood that's been charcoal, not something else? And Ed's back. He's even saying that he's back. Oh gosh. StreamYard's been very slow tonight. It's not keeping up with the comments. It's the same. Thanks, Terry. It's the same without the Kero and the heat beads. You don't. I love the smell of Kero. Heat beads is easier to control your heat. Oh, okay. Quick question. What's easier to light though, heat beads or charcoal? And what's easier to light if you don't have a charcoal starter, like one of those? Everyone, you know what I mean. Just your opinion. That's all right. We're allowed to share our opinions. Ed saying my fire got put out by the rain last night. Bit disappointing. I'm hoping that's your fire outside, not inside the house. I was talking to someone the other day, and it was actually last weekend, because we've had a wet couple of weeks here, and they're having a fire or a bonfire outside. And apparently it started raining, but their fire increased in size. They didn't put more wood, it just increased. It's weird. All right, got a few on. Yeah, it was a good night last night. I got the buck itchy nose thing going on when I'm on a live feed. Oh well. Yeah, no, it was good watching that. It was Buck doing something a bit different with everyone joining in. The only thing I'd have to say is that there was a few times it might have been a few too many people on. I think the biggest problem, it's not having too many people on, but when people have delays in their internet, so then they start cutting each other off just because it's the delay. It's not like you're having a proper conversation. It's not what I mean, not a proper conversation, but it's harder to have the conversation because of the delays. So you end up interrupting each other easily. Gosh, losing track already. You guys are having a good old chat. I all can't talk very quick. I'm on the phone. Okay. Cole was an Aussie as kind of character, hey. Were you having a staff meeting? Actually, what I was doing yesterday was I was signing my bank loan for my house. So that was exciting. I was sitting there like as he's going through all the mumbo jumbo and just like, and he's like, sign here. All right, wake up, sign. But they've got to read their little speech. Yes, I watched Bucks on replay, missed the feed, liked the format where he had a few guests. Yeah, it was cool to see different people on, hey. I enjoyed having random diddly donks on, but Cole and the fat head was rad ass. Legends. You can't write that shit though. That's what's good about it. It's raw. Both same. All right. I should have bloody written a list. I had a whole list of things I wanted to talk about because I put on my other also, if you ask me something and I'm not responding to it, or you want me to say something, tag me in it. You know, when you do the app. Otherwise, I might not see it because, as I said, StreamYard's not keeping up with the comments. I have to keep scrolling manually through it, whereas YouTube keeps up with it. But I'm watching on StreamYard. You should have an umbrella above it, 100%. What can go wrong? Out camping on the Murray. Awesome. Yeah, it was fun seeing everyone. Agreed, Terry. Yeah, 6 is too many. We found that, Buck, when we're doing our men's chat thing, which we're due for another one, but we've just had a few things that have just made it a bit difficult for us to line up to do the next one. And we had 5 on, and because we had Wixie, Roachy, myself, Jack Turtle, and Terry G, and that, like, we really found that 5 was that was pushing the limits. Yeah, 4 is okay, but as I said, it comes down to their internet connection as well. Problems that you don't want to interrupt. Yeah, that's it. And it's harder to, like, if you're in a conversation in person, it's easier to read when they're finished and you start. But when you're online, it's harder to judge that. So you end up interrupting people, then you feel bad, or then you don't. You hang off from what you're wanting to say. And I guess it's harder for the conversation to flow naturally online than it is in person. Well done, Lanny. Welcome back to the world of debt. Woohoo! Goodbye, savings. I'd also like to point out Mark has helped me a lot. We've had quite a few emails, messages, and phone chats helping me with getting my house and home loan and all that sort of stuff, which has helped. So thank you very much, Mark. Thanks, Ed. It's sort of when I got the phone call when I put my offer in, and because we went back and forth a few times, like, oh, congratulations, they've accepted your offer, and I was like, okay, because I'm like, oh, that's good. I finally got a house, because I've been looking at houses every Saturday. I've been going to open houses and a few throughout the week for like 3-4 months. So I'm absolutely rat shit from doing that. But it's kind of a bittersweet thing. Like, it's good that I finally got a house. I'm happy with the house I've got to some regards, but it's just the cost of housing in the last 3 to 4 years, how much it's gone up. It just means and it's the same for most people that are in a similar situation to me. We're basically financially stuffed. But what do? You pay $600 a week for rent, or you pay $800 a week on a repayment. So anyway, and the other thing is I can't move into the house for a year because I've got to rent it out. So once that year's finished and I get to actually move into it, that's when I think it will feel real, feel like it's mine. He's a laugh, Cole, and the flathead. I think you mean fathead. I didn't know that the fathead was his dog. Yeah. So where you finish up? Not sure what you mean by that. Oh, where you finish up buying? I'm not going to say online, but I'm just going to say that it's between Singleton and Maitland. The only reason I'm not going to say online is just because, not for people that are on the chat now, but just in case people were to join in, that like students that I teach, if they were to find out. It's one reason I wanted to move out of the town that I teach in, because I just need to have that separation from students and my daily life. He had a few shirts. Can't wait for the next one. Try to say something to the maniac. Phil is bloody hard. Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. I'm happy to, like, I don't mind giving a lot of information about it. I can tell you how much it cost and what my repayments are and what my deposit was. I don't mind sharing that information. I'm just not going to say where it is, only as I said before. I think a lot of Queenslanders, because the Queensland market is nowhere near as hard or tight as what the New South Wales market is, and I think a lot of those people up there will get quite a shock. I did look at the option of moving to Queensland because value for money, I could have got a hell of a lot more, but I'm just not there yet. I'm not ready to make that move, even though Queensland are calling out for teachers just as much as New South Wales. If I went to Queensland, I take a bit of a pay cut and I can't access my long service leave. So I have to start again. You have to work at least 7 years before you can access your long service leave. And I wasn't prepared to do that at this current time. Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, Mark's seen it. Yeah, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Most people that I've, like with my family and friends and work colleagues that have seen it, they said, looks like a good one. The building pest I got back yesterday was mostly positive. Get fucked. Do you know? Ooh. Here's an interesting one. Would I sooner move to Queensland and support the Maroons or move to Queensland and drink VB? I think I'd almost sooner drink VB. That's how dire that is. You know, look, I'll let you know, Jack. So it's a 4-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. Unfortunately, the bathroom, everything's in the one. I would have liked the toilet separate. In the shed is a toilet. In the shed, I'm going to eventually convert that into like a little studio, like part of the shed into a studio granny flat where I will live in, and put a shower in there, and then I'll rent rooms out in the house. That's my long-term or short-term, long-term goal. That way I've got my own space and I still get, I just don't want to be sharing too much with people, or I want to have that option where I can be separate. And I'm looking forward to the challenge of building something within the shed. And if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. It's in a shed. I can tell you now that my deposit was just shy of $200,000. It cost $770,000, and my repayments are going to be roughly $860 a week. And then you've got insurance rates and everything on top of that. And that was basically median house price in that area, which it's extremely expensive. But what do you do? There's big talk of a housing market decrease or crash next year, but what do you do? They didn't predict housing going up like it did during COVID, so you just have to take that chance. There's a few unique things about the property, which is why I got it. So I feel a little bit confident that I should be okay with it holding its value and slowly increasing. Not that I'd be looking to sell it. I already saw that one. 100% agree. Stuff the Maroons. Yeah, now give yourself an uppercut if you didn't before. Yes, correct. I do live in Tassie, and I have to swim to the mainland. It's just that New South Wales is closer than Queensland. That's why I go for the Blues. But yes, correct. I do live in Tassie. I'm one of the few that actually have broadband internet. Most people are still on dial-up or don't even have internet. So it's good to see Lukey Reed's one of them that's on. Yeah, it's a lot of money, hey? But that's the reality. There was no cheap way out of it. I looked at houses that, so if you take away apartments and townhouses, the cheapest houses started at $500,000, and they were on basically a 500 square meter block or less, and or they were ex-housing commission houses or still in those shitty areas. There wasn't much under 650,000 at all. Yeah, I know. I'm almost there. Only another 291 subscribers to go, and a hell of a lot of watch hours or view hours or whatever it's called. In saying that, I put out a short this week. I was going up the paddock after the rain. We got a waterfall on the property, and I was going up the paddock and to see the waterfall. And just before, well, just above the waterfall, there was a group of pigs. There was 2 sows, or 2 adult pigs, and like half a dozen piglets. And the dog went running after them. They went up the gully where there's heaps of trees and stuff, and the dog went after him. Not long after, the dog came back running at me, and behind it was a pig. And as the pig was chasing the dog, ran past, had a little snort thing at me, just brushed my leg. Anyway, I was filming, so I put it up. It goes for 5 seconds. Within 3 days, I'd just shy of 7,000 views on YouTube within 3 days. For a 5-second video, I didn't even have to edit. I just put it up. That's how bullshit YouTube is, that it goes more on shorts than you could spend a whole day filming and editing, and you get bugger all views. But a short like that, and you get almost 7,000 views off 5 seconds of footage. Yeah, nah, good swimmer. I swim better at night. I don't get a sunburn. I can last a bit longer. That's okay. We had ducks swimming in the front yards. That's how much. Yes, everywhere seems to be getting a bit of rain at the moment. Grecky Campbell's on. The Hunter Expressway has opened up the lower Hunter area. Yeah, it has. But it's not just that's made it more attractive. COVID, with house prices going up, 9 out of 10 houses in Singleton were bought by people that did not live anywhere near Singleton. So out of those 9 out of 10 houses that were getting bought by people in Newcastle, Central Coast, Sydney, 8 out of 10 of those, or 8 out of the 9 of those, were then getting rented back out like investments. Crazy. You know, someone was making 100K from YouTube and gave it away. Look, the amount of hours that you can put into it, you don't get a really good return on it. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to talk about, and it's part of the reason I went on YouTube tonight. Let me know if you're in a similar situation to me, and don't take any offense if you're a YouTuber that's on here. This is not necessarily directed at you. It's probably directed more to the others. But I'm finding lately, and by lately I mean the last sort of 3 months, there's not much on YouTube of interest to me. A lot of the people that I've been watching for years, that I've been subscribed, all of a sudden I'm not interested in what they're putting out. And I think a lot of it comes down to not necessarily their videos, but their thumbnails. There's so many on there who are just doing the clickbait thumbnails, and I'm like, I just could not give a shit about that stuff, and I don't watch it now because I find that those thumbnails with the clickbait, I'm like, that is so overdone, and I kind of feel like they just wanted me now to watch it because of their thumbnail, not because of what the actual thing is. And it makes everything seem like a cliche, whereas if you put something up that's not a thumbnail, that's after clickbait or cliche shit, I'll actually watch it. As I said, that's not directed to people that are actually on the chat here, but I know that a lot of people on this chat would have similar subscriptions to YouTube channels that I watch that I just haven't. I barely even click on them anymore. I'm still subscribed, but I just don't watch them. So that's why I just feel I still have no interest in watching free-to-air TV, but I'm just finding YouTube very boring. And it's not that I feel like I've watched everything there is to be watched. There's still things out there and topics I want to watch, but I just find their things so boring. Yeah, so it sounds like Queensland's pretty wet at the moment, like down here. I watch 10 YouTubers' content mainly. I have I think I'm subscribed to like 180 channels. And out of those 180, there's not many that now that I watch. I was probably, for a good while, there would have been 30 channels. I'd constantly or regularly watch most of their videos. Now I could probably tell you which are the ones that I watch. Yeah, one of my favorite channels has started doing the dramatic thumbnail and not watching that shit. Yeah, it's such a put off. And look, I get why they're doing it, but I actually think, and look, I could be wrong in this, that like maybe it's working for them. But for me, I actually feel like by putting that up there, it's like it's actually turning me off from watching it. So it's actually they'd be better off not putting that bullshit up there. And like it's pretty simple. They put words up there of, oh, what have I done? Or is this a big mistake? Or they do the whole face. I'm like, how freaking overdone is that shit? Like, just put up, like, if you got a new car, just put up something that doesn't have to have that shit about it. Just put up with you in the car or something. Don't put up dramatic shit. Oh, you can tell I've had a few, hey. I never really, are you talking about Brody from Youngbloods there? I never subscribed to him, but I watched a couple here and there. Yeah, TV is shit. Yeah, he did. Whoa. But look, and this is not me saying anything in defense of Buck. Like, it doesn't bother me if people do it every now and then. I did one, but mine was a piss take. But it's when they do it every video, and I'm like, it's just fucking desperado much. Sorry, I'm just going to go through the comments here quickly, and then I'm going to get on to some of the... I wanted to talk some good topics tonight, and I'll tell you why soon. I keep saying that. I'll get to it. Also, if anyone wants to join in, I did put the link up there, and if you can't find it, I'll put the link up again. Just ask. Terry's saying, I watch the main ones in the new community, but most of the time I watch woodworking videos. Do you know... Yeah, I watch a few woodworking ones too. My main ones that are not in the community that I watch are tiny house, woodworking, and then it's music. There's not a lot else that I watch unless it's a search specific thing of the time. I was thinking for my next thumbnail, bums and boobs, they'll get... I know you're joking, but like I'm dead set. Like as soon as I see that shit, I'm like, nah. That's probably one of the things that put me off tripping a van, to be honest. I'm like, I get that they're making money out of it, but if it was me and I had a wife, I don't care how hot she is, especially a wife with kids, I would not be putting her body up there every time. You watch Cletus all the time. Just give me a moment. Just going through comments. Bug if I know who you're talking about. I'm with you. Spot on. Thanks, Buck. If you roll the Series 1 Landy, guaranteed. Yeah. That's the biggest thing I've got. Like, if I do Land Rover videos on Series 1 stuff, that's where I get most of my views. But the problem now is I can't afford to do it. I don't have the enthusiasm. I'm still planning on doing it, and I've got a few videos I still need to get in and edit. I just don't have the enthusiasm just yet to do it. He's a car racer. Okay, let's keep going. I wouldn't need a VP to help me vomit on that one. Hey, Steve's on. Hope you're all well there, Steve. I was going to send you because I've been meaning to send you an invite to do a live feed. I just wasn't sure with what you put up on Instagram whether you were having a bit of a break or something, so I didn't contact you. But I'm happy to, if you want to plan one, send me a message. Everyone just saying hello, which is good. I think she's hot, Landy. I can't stand it, to be honest. Yeah. Pretty fake, hey? Alright. Now, what was it? I got a brain fart going on. What was it that I was going to talk about? Oh, so, I went and had a conversation with my grandmother today. I just went over to see how she was. Just context, we're on the same property. She's just a couple hundred meters up the road. So I walked over to see her and had a good conversation. So she was born in the 1930s, and we're talking about just how shit society is, especially in Australia, and all the problems that are going on. And that's where we got talking about religion, drugs, just the way that people are, how shit Australia sort of is at the moment, and how Asian countries seem to be going ahead, and the values that some of the Asian countries have is maybe where we used to be, and they're going light years ahead of us. So this is what I wanted to talk about. And when I said had it on my other video before I cancelled, I was going to talk about the things that you're not supposed to talk about around the campfire. So you're not supposed to talk about religion. You're not supposed to talk about politics, or something else that you're not supposed to talk about around campfire. But anyway, we're going to talk about them. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, that's fine. I don't really care. But the whole point about having a conversation, this is where I think we've gone wrong, is that it's okay to have a different opinion of someone. You need to remember that their opinion might be based on different things to you, and that remember how they've been brought up might be different, and that's why their opinion might be different. And if you take their opinion to heart, like unless it was directed at you, like personally, if you take their opinion to heart, whatever, well, that's a you problem. I think we've got to get to the point that it's okay to have those hard conversations with people that we know and don't know, and come out of it okay, knowing that people think differently. So one thing that we were talking about was that manners and respect in Australia have gone to the shit. Domestic violence has increased, and I think, yes, part of this is that with media and everything, it gets more attention, but I'm fairly confident that domestic violence is on the rise. I think domestic violence was probably a big thing back in the 1950s, different times with the different way that society went and how they ran, but I actually think that domestic violence is 100% on the rise. This does not make sense to me why it is, because like I was saying to my grandmother earlier today, I felt like, and tell me whether I'm wrong or whether you think different, that's okay, I felt like that only 10 to 15 years ago, we were in a pretty good place in regards to equality between men and women, without going to extremes, but there was a lot more respect for women 10, 15 years ago than what there is today. Domestic violence didn't seem like it was as big of a thing, but what it seems like today is that there's a lot of men treating women like shit. And I say this not just in regards to older men. I see it with men in their all ages, even to teenagers. I see now that kids, like boys, if they want to get the attention of girls, the way they go about it is treating them like shit. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And I actually pull the kids aside and I say, what the hell are you doing? I said, if you want to get their attention, if you want to try and get in a relationship with them, don't treat them like shit. Flirt with them in a good way. Build them up. Say good things about them, or don't. But like, it's to the point they're putting them down verbally and actually like physically as well. And some of the girls are taking that. They're accepting that. I feel like we've taken a massive step backwards in the last 5 years when we were actually progressing. Love to hear your thoughts on that. And then I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Let's see. Yeah, totally lost the manners with the young ones. It's reported now. Yeah, I agree. It's always been a massive issue. It's good that women are reporting instances. Yeah, Freddie's saying it was hidden. Buck's saying, I taught a few blokes manners when I went to domestic violence incidents. You'd actually have a bit of an idea about this too, Buck, being in the industries you were in. Do you think it's on the rise? Or do you think it's just that we're hearing more about it with social media and media, etc.? The days before cameras. So maybe you're starting to think that it's always been as bad as what it is. It's just that it's coming to light more now. Freddie's saying in my day and before the Catholic priests would tell the women they had to put up with it. It actually used to be in education, in public education back in the 50s and 60s. Women were actually taught that you had to obey your man and that you had to do whatever the man wanted. That's what they actually got taught. So that's what I mean by it's different times. I'm not saying I agree with those times, but that's the way that people were brought up then. People of my age and younger, we have not been brought up, at least at school, that that's the way to behave. Never, even when I was in school as a primary school student in the 90s, I never looked at women or girls lesser. I looked at them different because there are differences, pros and cons or whatever. It's just that that's different genders, etc. But at no point did we ever think, oh, that's a man's job, that's a women's job. Obviously, there's a few points where that is the case or not the case. But we never looked at them as lesser, but now it feels like it is going that way. And I'm not saying that, and there are obviously cases where domestic violence isn't men against women, that it's women against men, and men against men, women against women, etc., all that. But I am generalizing here that it does seem to be a lot worse with the way that men are treating women. It's been overdone, mate. Some women are using DV to get leverage of the children after a breakdown in the relationship. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that one. Thanks for letting me know, Buck. So maybe that is part of it. Maybe it's that people are using that because they know that if they say that, they can sort of get what they want. I'm not with domestic violence, but there's other things which I won't say. But I know that people are using other things where they can tick box to get what they want, and they don't value it. They're just doing it to get what they want. It's quite a selfish act, and I reckon a lot of you know what I mean. Greg Campbell saying, a company I worked for put all employees through an ethical behaviour course due to the amount of female employees from different cultures. Interesting you speak of cultures, and this is where I bring it back to a conversation I had with my grandmother today. So she is born in the 1930s, so she's almost 90. And that's the generation where I think, not that it's acceptable, but it's more understandable that people might think differently about different cultures, religions, etc. But she even said to me, because we're talking about the war that's going on at the moment, we're talking about the Ukraine and Russia war, and then we're talking about the war with Palestine, Israel, and Egypt going on. And she even said to me, and this, keep in mind, this is someone born in the 1930s in the country, and the reason I say country is because sometimes they're a little bit, country people can be a little bit, not backwards, but outdated in some of their thinking. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but that's one thing I've noticed. She even said, isn't it ridiculous that after all these years and after all that we teach and learn, that we are still fighting people based on color of skin or ethnic, their sexuality, and mainly religion? Why are we not just judging people, or I don't mean judging as a bad way, but judging people based on their characteristics, whether they're a good person or a bad person or somewhere in between? Why can't we as a humanity do that? And I think the response will probably be because there's too many fucked up people in the world who just want to destroy. But the other thing that we had a conversation about, and I'm not big on understanding all religions and the wars that are going on, but a lot of wars come down to religion. And a lot of time, those religions, it's not like you've got like Hinduism versus Catholic, where it's completely different gods and etc. But when it tends to be a war to do with religion, it actually tends to be that those religions are very similar. So, for example, if you had to look at Christians or Christian Israelites and Catholic, they're basically in a nutshell, the same religion, just a few slight differences, yet they're at war with each other. How messed up is that? They believe in the same friggin' God, everything, yet they're at war with each other and they hate each other. That's a generalized statement, obviously. But that seems like where most wars, religious wars, come from, are from similarities, not huge differences. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And if you want to join in on video, I'll put that link back in. And this is where I don't mind if you want to challenge my thoughts. If you think differently, it's completely fine. I'm all for learning from others, and it's okay to have a difference of opinion. And while you're having a response to that, I'm just going to quickly read through your comments again. Where am I up to? Mark Vell, I'm one of 9 kids, 2 boys, 7 sisters. I was taught very early who was in charge. Okay. Yeah, Greg, women need to be treated with respect no matter what background they are from. 100%. One thing is for sure, it's much higher than 50 years ago. So you're thinking the same. She actually is. Yeah, she's a well-educated and down-to-earth person when she comes to those sort of things. Religion is the biggest of all evils, which is funny. And this is exactly what my grandmother and I agreed on today, is that if anything, religion should be something that brings people together. Religion should be based on peace within humanity and peace with one another, yet it seems to be the root of all evils. And obviously, like, I've got a few friends who are religious and they're beautiful people. You couldn't ask for better people. But if you look at a lot of the issues we have in the world, it comes down to religion. It makes you wonder, are people, they're extremists going in looking for an excuse to start shit, and they use religion as a way in? You're either a good person or a shit. No in between. Oh, I'd actually disagree with that. Oh, and here he comes. Hello. 1 second. You're all good there, Buck. Is your sound on?
Hang on, wait.
Yeah, no, I can hear.
No, it's good. I had 2 different things going, mate. How are you, everyone? Hope you're well. Roz has just gone. Oh my God, he's on.
He's on again.
What was up, me, everyone? But look.
Yeah, cool shirt, eh?
Terry shirt on. They look good, don't they? They look good. Hope you're enjoying your weekend, mate. I wasn't going to come on, but you're talking about domestic violence, and mate, everyone knows out there I'm an ex-copper, and I dealt with it a lot in my job, and I saw how many people came into prison because of domestic violence. Unbelievable, mate. I saw guys come in for domestic violence into the prison, and they were full of stab wounds. And I said, "What are you in for, mate?" "Oh, I punched me missus in the face." "Oh, right, eh? What happened?" "Oh, she was stabbing me with a butcher's knife," and you could see the stab wounds on them. And I thought, and you're in jail. So there's 2 sides to a story, mate. And it's they paint it on the TV to be a horrible male versus a female. There is another side of the story, and let me tell you, and I said it in the comments there, I do not agree with any man ever bloody bashing a woman up or whatever. That's not on. We all know that, and anyone who does that deserves everything they get. But mate, there's some women out there, and I saw it when I was a copper. They used to come into the police station and they used to use domestic violence as a tool to try and get leverage over the children, thinking, if I've got a DV order in my favour, it's going to look better with child safety and all that type of stuff so I can get the children. And it happens, mate. It happens all the time. But unfortunately, there's bloody women out there being killed by their jealous ex-partners too, which is not on. And I can see why it's going so over the top with DV now. And I was only told the other day when I went through the police academy, 6 months. And it was a full-on 6 months, mate, like full-on. It's now 8 months in Queensland, 2 extra months for the domestic violence training. And I was speaking to a mate of mine the other day who's still a copper, and he said, "Mate, you would not believe, you thought DV was bad when you were in. You should see how bad it's got now with the paperwork and that." Not meaning there's extra DV, it's just the extra the extra thing. I think it just gets extra reported now. We've had women get murdered in domestic violence situations, and they've ramped it up. And it is over-reported now, and it's a lot more reported than what it was in our grandparents' days, mate, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, for sure. So, anyway.
What do you think are some of the common things that bring on DV? Because this is something that my grandmother and I were talking about today, and we didn't say, oh, that was it. But one thing that we spoke about is that there are some cultures where there's still the man rules the roost sort of thing.
Absolutely.
I know I've been in situations where, especially out very west, New South Wales, drugs are a massive issue, and that's where the issues are coming from, like drugs and alcohol. Do you think there'd be many cases of domestic violence where you don't have drugs, alcohol, or major cultural things coming into effect?
I did see that. A lot of it in my day was alcohol involved. There's usually a lot of alcohol involved in a lot of the stuff, especially in Arakoon, mate. Indigenous community up in Cape York. The domestic violence up there was out of control. And a lot of the time that was alcohol fueled. So much for being a dry community. They used to get the grog in, and as soon as the grog got in, the domestic violence was out of control. And I'm talking stabbings, women getting their heads beaten in with garden rakes and fence palings and star pickets and some really bad domestic violence. I've seen it all, mate. That's why I had to come on and say my bit. And but a lot of it's alcohol driven, especially up here in the Aboriginal communities, and that a lot of it is alcohol driven, mate. But I'll tell you now, I went to some DV incidents, and it was like I see through people's bullshit, and there was a lot of women that were using the situation to try and get leverage over the children. And mate, if I went to an incident and there was DV both ways, it was we used to call it cross orders. It wasn't just an automatic DV order or DV application against the male. It was cross applications, and they both went to court and justified why they shouldn't have a DV order against them, mate. So, but I'll tell you now, and I said it in the comments there, if I ever went to an incident where some asshole has beaten shit out of his missus, he didn't make it back to the watch house in one piece, mate. And that's what happened when I was a copper. Doesn't happen now. It can't happen now. They've got cameras and all that type of stuff. We're losing.
So what are the consequences for someone, whether they're male, female, or other, that commits domestic violence, besides if they go to jail? Because it seems like there's still, and this is not just domestic violence, it seems like a lot of crimes are just have no consequences for.
Yeah. Well, now when I was in, if I went to an incident, if we got called 000, a husband's smashing the house up and threatening to beat her up or whatever, we go to the incident, we investigate, we get there, we settle the situation down. And if we see that domestic violence has taken part, and domestic violence isn't just violence, mate, it's intimidation, harassment, damage to property. You know, he's trashed the house. He hasn't laid a hand on her, but he's trashed the house, threatened her, and gone off. There's a lot of different things that make up domestic violence, mate. But when I went in there, and if there was no domestic violence order in place or an apprehended violence or AVO, I think you call it in New South Wales, if we went to an incident, and in my day, if it was just everyone has a verbal argument at times over money, it might be over the kids or whatever. We used to go to a lot of jobs and we'd say, righto, guys, what's happened? Oh, we just had an argument over the kids, or we had an argument over the amount of bills we're getting. No one's been hurt. No damage is done. No one's been threatened. No one's been harmed. We used to be able to write that job off as a no domestic violence incident, a verbal argument only, and it was left at that, mate. Nothing else happened. But if we ever went there and there was domestic violence, we had the power to detain, and I'll go there, say old mate had slapped his missus and smashed the TV, and we can see that that's happened. We had the power to detain him, take him back to the watch house for 4 hours. If there was no domestic violence order in place, if there was, and he had a DV order already on him, it would be automatic arrest for breaching his domestic violence order, which is a court order. If there was no order in place, we had the power to detain him for 4 hours, put him in the watch house, do a domestic violence application up, and then release him on domestic violence bail. And depending on the circumstances, we could say you've got to be good behaviour towards her until court. You're not allowed to go near the house or whatever. Court was always the following Tuesday, domestic violence court. Then the magistrate would look at the application we did up, and then the magistrate would decide whether they do a domestic violence order against that person, against the respondent. So you had the aggrieved and you had the respondent. The respondent was the baddie. 90% of the cases, it was the male, okay? So, and if he had a domestic violence, if the magistrate said, yep, I can see the application from the police here, domestic violence did occur, I'm going to order back then it was 2 years, a 2-year domestic violence order. It is now 5, mate. Back in my day, if you breached a domestic violence order, it was a simple offence. Now it is a crime, and then they've ramped it up, mate. And if you breach a DV order a couple of times, there's a fair chance you're going to go to the big house. So we go around, serve them with their domestic violence order and say, mate, for the next 2 years, you've got to be of good behaviour towards her and the children. You're allowed in the house, but if you breach it, it'll be automatic arrest. And that's how it worked, mate. Or if it was a real violent situation and she said to us, I don't want him anywhere near us ever again, we could put the conditions on there that he's not allowed within 200 metres of her or the house, and a lot of extra conditions could go on there, mate. But it was a big thing when I was a copper, but apparently now, mate, I've been out for a long time, since 2009. It is a big thing now, they reckon. Domestic violence just has totally engulfed police officers. And that's, if you're wondering why you don't see police officers out on the road anymore, it's because of domestic violence. They are tied up in knots with paperwork over it, mate.
Yeah. Well, I was in a community of about 3,500 in central west New South Wales. And it's the third highest community in the area in the state for domestic violence. Yeah. Also, drugs were a big issue. And I know that we had to do some, so if a student ever got suspended, would have to have, the parents would come in, or at least one parent, and we had to have a meeting before the kid came back to school. We even had, and I only ever saw it really, domestic violence from a male to female. I know there was a lot of violence in the area with females, but I only saw the domestic with males and females. We even had one father raise his hand to the mother or the wife in our meeting. And we just looked at each other, like me and the other staff member, and we were just like, what the fuck? What do we do here? But I guess a bit like how you're saying with Aurukun, that it's a completely different, they're different areas, they're different ways to how the rest of us sort of live, and different things go on in those communities. Yeah. I had one incident when I was near, I shouldn't say where I was, but anyway, I reported an incident, happened across the road. It was in the front yard, and I taught one of the kids, and had younger kid, had brothers and sisters who weren't at school yet. And I think it was stepdad, he punched the wife or the mum in the front yard. And so I called that through, and the police came, they arrested him. The wife said, I just hit my head on, because she had massive bruise, because I just hit it on the car bonnet. So she was denying it. And I went through with it, and because the copper said to me, if I don't do a formal report, nothing can happen from it. And I thought about it for a while, and what made me decide to put it through as a formal thing, which then I had to go to court with, is that if I didn't do that, those kids would continue to be exposed to that. And I sort of thought this might be the way of that lady getting out of that situation where she can't do it by herself. So anyway, went through, he got charged, and he wasn't allowed anywhere near her, the kids, or myself for 5 years, I think the ruling was. Within 1 week, she was with someone who was worse. You throw your hands up and go, well, what the hell? Yeah, you try to do the right thing.
Tony, you did the right thing by doing that, mate. You did the right thing. The amount of times we used to go around, he's beating her up, and we go, you're not allowed within, and it go through court. And a month later, they had no contact orders and all that. She'd go straight into the courthouse and they called it a variation, apply for a variation to a domestic violence order. So she could apply to have the extra conditions that he's not allowed within 200 metres of the house and he's not allowed within 200. She used to go in and apply to get those things taken off. It would always stay as the respondent has to be of good behaviour towards the aggrieved and not commit any acts of domestic violence and any other named persons on the thing, which usually is the children. But they used to go in, mate, the females used to go in and take those extra clauses off because they got short memories, and it happened all the time, mate. But how do you stop that? How do you stop that? And
that's where I'm at now, because that's one thing that I was talking to my grandmother at the moment today about, and I said, not just with domestic violence, but other things as well. How do you stop this cycle from happening? Do you have an answer?
Sterilisation.
That's exactly what I said. I said
that'll never happen.
No, but that's the answer. That's what I came up with the answer to. A lot of the answer to a lot of things is to stop them from breeding, stop people from breeding, and stop that cycle.
And we can't do it, mate. And we all know that shit people. And you know what? This is what I'm trying to say here, mate. 99% of the time, when I went to a DV incident, you know how the TV always makes out like it's some innocent female and some horrible man. That's the DV incident that they portray on TV. 99% of the time, I used to go to DV incidents, it was she's a shitbag and he's a shitbag. The decent people, we never saw them. The only time we saw a decent person was when we're giving the poor buggers a speeding ticket. That's the only time you saw some of the good people. We just dealt with the same pieces of shit all the time. Coming back to your point, mate, they shouldn't be allowed to friggin' breed, but they do. And unfortunately, there's no law against it, and it'll never stop. They just keep breeding, and they're going to keep breeding shit you-know-whats. And they're going to see it in the prison, mate. The kids coming in to visit their dads, and you just think, give it 10 years and you'll be in here yourself because you apple doesn't fall far from the tree, mate. You're going to end up a piece of shit just like your father. So
and that's the problem. The kids don't stand a chance.
Yeah, mate. And people can argue with me. I've been in the two jobs where I've seen that side of the fence, and no one will change my mind. I've seen it. And how do we change it? No one knows how to change it. Like, how do you stop shit people being attracted to other shit people and breeding? So it's not going to happen. And this country, mate, this country is full of it. It is absolutely full of it. There is a lot of shit people out there. Too many. You'll never get a country or a place that's got the whole community's full of good people, except for this community here in the chat room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these people here. But when you get out in the real world, mate, and you're a copper or a prison officer or whatever, you get to see just
the
how
worst
much
of the worst.
Out there, mate. Yeah. You see how much shit's out there, and it is out there. And that's why coppers are leaving in droves in Queensland now, because the power's been taken out of their hands. They just feel like they're just beating their heads against the wall. What do you do?
I think anything that's a government job, with so teaching, which is my field, copper, which is yours, those people should have a lot of power. They should be some of the most respected and most powerful people within our community, yet they have the least power.
Yeah.
How messed up.
I agree with you. School teachers are one of those. School teachers now. I was doing a live feed on Kaz's channel the other night, mate, and one of his special guests, he had 4 people on. One of them was a female teacher. She wasn't on screen. All we could hear was her voice. She wasn't allowed to go on and show her face or anything. You could just hear the frustration in her voice at how powerless, I don't know, I think she was in New South Wales or Victoria. You could just tell how frustrated she was, mate, as being a school teacher, of how watered down it's been now. We respected and feared our school teachers when we were at school, mate, because we knew if we stuffed up, we get the cuts, and that we get the bloody leather strap across the arse or the cane across the hands. And our brothers and the nuns and that, mate, we didn't fear them, but you didn't dare bloody back chat them or be disrespectful to them like they do these days. Like you were brought up to respect your teachers, respect your parents, respect any elder, respect Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, all your mates. Like now, if I ever went to my mate's place when I was a kid, it was always Mr. and Mrs. Hello, Mrs. So-and-so. Hello, Mr. So-and-so. That's gone. The respect thing is going now, mate. We respected other people's parents. They respected our parents. You respected elders. If an elder person told you to do something, you'd listen and you would do it. Your teachers, it didn't matter who it was.
I think a lot of this is coming back to the fact that shit people are having too many kids. Because we find that in teaching is that we have to do so many things that that's the parents' job. Why do we have to do this stuff? Like, we spend so much time doing parenting stuff, and like, that is not what our job should be about.
Your job is to give kids an education, mate.
Yep.
That is it. That is your job. Your job is to give
kids an
education, not to be a parent. Absolutely be a figurehead to them, and especially a sporting teacher. I remember our brother in grade 9 and grade 10 at Christian Brothers. He took us for French, English, PE. Like, he was a jack of all trades, mate, and we just looked up to the guy. You know, he was there, and we go to a sporting carnival, and you could see how passionate he was for Christian Brothers to beat all the state schools in the inter-school, the athletics carnivals and the swimming carnivals and all that. And he just instilled a sense of pride in the school and all that. I don't know if they have that anymore, mate. We were proud of our schools.
It's funny you say that. How many people take pride within themselves? Because I often say to people that you represent yourself, you represent your family, you represent your school and your community.
Yeah.
But people just don't give a shit. They really do. No one has pride in anything anymore. If they're doing because I teach timber, they're doing a project, they don't give a shit what it's like. Like, where's the pride in your work? Pride just doesn't exist anymore. Not really.
I guess all you can do is do your best to try and make them proud of their work. And if it's not quite good, critique them and say, mate, you can do better here. You can do better here. If someone does a good job, praise them and say, mate, really good job. Really good job. I reckon next time we work on this area. And I'm sure you do that, mate. I'm sure you do that. You've got to leave the kids with some sort of hope. And even if they don't get it right, mate, there was an old thing in the army, you know, if you're critiquing someone doing a drill lesson or a weapons lesson, if they're a bag of shit, you always critique them and say you're a bag of shit, but always leave them on a high. The last thing they hear was some positive feedback to them. And I'm sure you do that as teachers as well.
Yeah, we do. Just speaking about the cops, so like, for example, with teachers, we're 3,000 teachers short in New South Wales, and it's dropping all the time. I would imagine it'd be a similar thing with police. Like, I no way would I go and be a cop these days.
Well, I only saw a thing on the news the other night, mate, where the Gold Coast now, they just cannot keep the police up. And there's, like, on the Gold Coast, 300 calls to the police a night going unanswered now because they haven't got the police officers to respond. And when I was a copper here in this town, mate, our police station was open 24/7, 365. Us Connies were always out on the road doing our stuff. If someone had a problem, they could walk into that police station any time of the day, 2 o'clock in the morning, and a sergeant or a senior constable will walk out and go, how can I help you, mate? They always had a police officer to talk to. Apparently, that's not the case now. My son tried to go to the Mundingborough police station in Townsville the other day. A copper said, come and see me, mate. Bloody over some shit that was going on in his life. And Phil turned up, couldn't get it. The police station was locked. Like, really? Like, how bad is it, mate? Like, it's just getting beyond the joke, mate. And
So do you think that it's just people are not wanting to go into the police force, or do you think it's just government funding's getting cut?
mate, I think they're just making it so ridiculously hard now. I got out of the police, and I got out of the police because the paperwork was out of control, mate. You could not get out on the police car to go on patrol and do your job and be seen. And I think one big thing with police officers, you've got to be seen in the community. People want to see blue shirts out on the street, especially on Friday and Saturday nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, outside the pubs. They want to see decent people, want to see the cop cars patrolling around. And we used to just patrol around, and if someone stood out of line, they were in the paddy wagon and spent the night in the watch house. And people knew it, mate. People knew it. It doesn't happen anymore, mate. I don't see the cops patrolling around anymore. Apparently now they're in the station doing reams and reams and reams of paperwork on friggin' DV. And that's their whole, and that's why they're getting out, mate. They're getting frustrated and they're getting out. And I'm sure school teachers are the same. They want to go in and they want to teach kids. They don't want to be disrespected. They want to be able to go in, and I'm sure that's why you're 3,000 teachers short, because someone up the top has turned it into an absolute cluster, you know what, and have not allowed you to be school teachers. And I keep saying it on my channel, mate, we're losing the basics. We are going backwards, and it doesn't matter what you talk about these days. We're going backwards. Police, teachers, discipline, friggin' driver revivers closing there. It doesn't matter what you talk about. It's all negative shit. And it's because they're just going backwards, mate. We're going backwards. And
I do think a big thing is the paperwork. It's not, as you said, cops, it's huge. I worked out for every hour that I teach, I do at least half an hour of paperwork. I'm like, that's bullshit. I just want to teach. Let me do the teaching and it'll be friggin' great. But it's all the paperwork, and it's useless paperwork. I don't mind doing meaningful paperwork, but when it's useless stuff. I do like your point the other day. You made a really good point about with the driver reviver, that why don't they use the money from traffic fines like your speeding and put that towards it? Not only does it allow for that, like not only does it fund that, but it actually makes sense, doesn't it? Like you're using that money to save other lives. Like and as you said, like if you were someone who got fined, and you knew that, say it was a $300 fine and that went towards a driver reviver thing, you probably wouldn't feel a shit about paying that fine, as it's just going to in the cloud.
Yeah, into consolidated revenue, and it could end up being spent on anything, mate. But, and Queensland government, which is putrid at the moment, the Labor government up here, absolutely putrid. They've closed 23 driver revivers across the state, because it's all getting too hard for them and it costs them a bit of money. But yet they can spend all these millions of dollars on all this bullshit going on down there.
Stuff.
Mate. But and back onto what you were saying, mate. And I'm not a smart bloke, mate. I only went to year 10. I am not a highly educated person. Most people have probably picked up on that. But I use a bit of common sense, mate. Use a bit of, as we say it in the army, I'm going to swear, everyone. In the army, use a bit of common dog fuck, which is common sense, what we called it in the army. The politicians have lost the ability to do that. Why don't? I know that traffic police have got to be out on the road and enforce the traffic rules. I get that. Sometimes they're a bit too keen, but can you imagine the roads and that if we didn't enforce the traffic rules and all that type of stuff, it'd be mayhem out there. They've got to go out and do that. But if you put the speeding fines and all that type of stuff back into road safety initiatives like driver revivers and other stuff too that I can't think of off the top of my head, mate, put it back into there and people will probably go, you know what? I don't mind seeing the cops out there giving out speeding tickets, because at least we know that the money from that is going to repair.
Well, it's not just revenue raises, is it?
Yeah, it's not just, and everyone goes, oh, it's revenue raising, which it is. And I agree with you, mate. A lot of the speed camera stuff is just revenue raising for the government. But if people see the coppers out there and they don't want to see speed cameras on the side. They want to see blue shirts out on the road. They said to me when I was a cop, do you want to do your speed camera course and go out in the speed camera? It's all overtime. Go out in the speed camera for 4 hours, all overtime. I said, no, don't want to do it. If I'm going to do traffic type stuff, and I was never a traffic cop, I'll go out and stand on the side of the road with the LiDAR. And if I catch someone speeding, I'll pull them in and either give them a caution or give them a ticket. People want to see blue shirts out there doing their job, and people hiding in friggin' cars with cameras and all that type of stuff. I was a firm believer, mate, on people want to see blue shirts out there doing their job, and we don't see it anymore. It's a shame, mate. I don't know what New South Wales is like, but Queensland, they're just understaffed. They're tied up in the stations doing reams of paperwork, and they cannot get out on the road to do their job. Teachers, as you said, can't do their job. Even my mum, who's still nursing now, she said we spend more time on the computer saying what we've done than actually getting out and doing it and actually looking after the patients. It doesn't matter who you speak to, teachers, nurses, cops, prison officers. It's just the same across the board, mate.
Even tradies, the amount of paperwork and useless paperwork tradies have to on mining sites. Oh, find 3 hazards that you have to report them. Well, what if there isn't a hazard, or what if they're the same hazards? Are you going to go and fix those hazards? We're just reporting shit for the sake of it, and that's why our labour costs, like per hour, why it's so high, because of all this bullshit, red tape shit. And that's why we can't do manufacturing.
Yeah, bit of common sense, streamline some stuff, mate, and let's get the country rocking and rolling again. Everyone's got a job to do. Let everyone get on with their job, and it doesn't matter what job you do. It's important. It's important to this country, no matter what it is. But let them do their jobs. Let them do their job, and everything will start bloody running a bit smoother, I reckon.
When do you reckon was the last time that Australia felt stable?
Mate, maybe the John Howard era. John Howard and Costello was the treasurer. John Howard was the prime minister, and Alexander Downer was the foreign minister.
Mid-2000s.
I felt we were in good hands there. I thought Tony Abbott got off to a fairly good start, and then he started getting backstabbed. I think since John Howard, we haven't had a decent government, and we've been going downhill ever since then, mate. I'm not saying John Howard was perfect. He did some stuff that probably wasn't right too, like going into Iraq, and he made some poor decisions. But
selling Telstra off.
As far as our economy and all that type of stuff, he was the prime minister. Tony Costello, I think that was his name, was the treasurer, a very good treasurer. Peter Costello, and Alexander Downer was the foreign minister. I think we're in good hands there, mate, and I think we've been going backwards ever since. People might disagree with me.
That's exactly what my grandmother and I said today. And I don't have a political side. I really don't.
I don't.
But that's exactly when I think was the last time that we felt comfortable, and that there wasn't shit all the time. There wasn't issues. We felt stable and we felt confident as a country.
Yeah.
I think ever since then, it just feels like we're just going down the friggin' rabbit hole, you know?
What about
all the shit?
You know, I don't support the Labor government, and I don't support LNP either. You know, I go for the Katter Party. But, mate, even when Bob Hawke was in, mate, like, just people respected the guy, and he made common sense decisions and all that type of stuff. And then John Howard, who was the other one? Paul Keating. Paul Keating was a sensible man. I didn't agree with everything he did, but, you know, we were going on all right with him. But, mate, and then we had Julia Gillard, Kevin Rudd, Tony Abbott. Tony Abbott showed some good signs, but he also...
He couldn't execute things very well, was his problem.
Yeah, exactly. And Turnbull, this is when we really started going woke, mate.
He should have been good. He had all the smarts. He just couldn't lead.
Yeah. No, I didn't like that guy, Turnbull. And then who was our ScoMo, mate? He was a bit.
He started off well, but then turned to shit.
Well, and then he became a snake in the grass. So I don't know, mate. Depends on what political thing. But the guy that's here at the moment, the diddly donkin at the moment, he is weakening this country. And there's an old
Yep.
saying that weak men create hard times. Exactly what is happening now, mate.
100%.
It is exactly what is happening now. Not only to Australia, have a look at Canada with Trudeau, like getting weakened. You know, I have discussions with Slacken, mate, up there in Canada, and he said, mate, our Prime Minister, Trudeau, is just killing this country. He is too woke. And
I feel like it's a lot of them are the more white Western countries, Australia, Canada, America, the UK. They're all ones in turmoil, turn into shit. While I actually feel like the Asian countries are going ahead.
Well,
you look at Japan, like how respectful and how they've got their society sorted. And I know that there's a lot of bad things about China, but I recently had a friend who went to China, and I was thinking, oh shit, like hell no, I would not go there. And she was a bit like that as well. She said, I couldn't have gone to a better place. She said the people were so friendly, respectful, everything was so clean. Yeah, there were certain rules with the tour that you couldn't go off from the tour. But she said everyone was so friendly. She did say, though, one big thing that China's going to have a massive problem with in a few years is, you remember how they had that the one-child policy?
Yes.
So most families, therefore, had a boy because of the whole the man carrying the family thing. So there's a lot more men over there than there are women. And in a few years to come, they're going to find a bit of a problem, and they're going to have to breed like crazy to keep their numbers up.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. And, well, they're over 1 billion, and so is India. India isn't far behind them now, mate, with their population. But I don't know, mate. We used to knock the Asian countries, didn't we? But
we did.
We need to, as a Prime Minister, you need to sit back in Australia and not bury your head and go, oh, we've got the best thing. You need to have a look around and go, I like the way this country does stuff. I like the way they're doing things. And it was like, I'll give you an example. When you're in the army and you're coming up through the ranks, when you're a private soldier, you might look at a few corporals and sergeants and warrant officers, and you go, geez, I respect him and I like the way he does things. And you start modeling yourself off the way they think. So when you go up through the ranks, you pick the good traits from all your bosses as you're coming up through the ranks. I think PMs and people like that have got to have a look around the world and go, yeah, I like the way they're doing things. Let's have a look at this and see if it can benefit Australia. And I think we've been a bit naive with the Asian countries, mate. I think they do things a lot better than us. Singapore is a classic example, mate. Maybe we should start having a look at some Asian countries, see how they do things, and think, this will work in Australia. We're going to give this a crack. I think we got a bit of a, I don't know, chip on our shoulder, haven't we, Aussies? You know, we think we're better than some other people, and we're not, mate. And we might have been in the day.
I was actually about to say the same. I reckon we used to be.
We've come back to earth with a thud now, mate. Let me tell you, we're not as good as we think we are. And you only have to see how they build roads here in North Queensland to know that the companies that build roads up here haven't got a fucking clue how to build a road to last one wet season. Like, we need to get outside the box.
Here's a question, and I'm going to explain it a bit before so it doesn't sound as bad. Obviously, we're all against wars, and wars are not a good thing. Does Australia need to be in a war to wake us up?
Part of me, you know, funny you should say that, mate. Part of me says yes, but the other part of me goes definitely no, because I know our Defence Force at the moment could not peel the skin off a custard, mate. We are not in a position to go to war. Any sort of decent war, like a Ukraine-Russia war or whatever, mate, we'll get our asses kicked. I'm not having a go at the people in the Defence Force now. They're still well trained. I know the standards have slipped. It's not as good as it used to be. Mate, my answer to that is no. I think, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see China put the squeeze on us just to the stage where we piss our pants a little bit and a little bit of poop comes out and wake us up. But I certainly don't want to see us go to war, mate. And the other thing I didn't like about the LNP party when Peter Dutton and then we're in. They were poking the bear, mate. They were poking China before Albo got in. They were poking China, and I'm thinking, careful what you wish for, mate. You poke the bear, and it's going to react, and you're going to regret it. And that's what the LNP party was doing. Don't go trying to start a blue with one of the big boys on the block when your defence force is not up to speed, and it's not. For those people who have never been in the defence force, our defence force is severely lacking at the moment. It is poor. It is our Navy is poor. Our Army is undermanned. It is understrengthed. It is undergunned. Our Navy might be okay in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, but right now we need to be diplomatic to people and try and remember Aussies always used to be the good guy on the block, and we were good at talking to people and we were like everyone's friend. I think we need to still be like that, mate. We need to be the good guy on the block, and if there's a war or there's a disagreement between some people, let's get in the middle and try, like you do, you see two mates about to start throwing them, you get in the middle and go, hey, boys, settle down a bit. Let's friggin', come and fisticuffs ain't the way to go here. We need to still be like that as Australia. I think we used to be good at it. I know we've got involved in some shit that we shouldn't have got involved in, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and that. Hindsight's 20/20 vision, as they say. But we've got to be careful about what we do, mate. But we need to fix our internal problems at the moment, and that is the cost of living, mate. Fuel, electricity, and groceries. They're the three big things that we can concentrate on right now. Fix that up. And mate of mine that was my sergeant in the Coppers, Dwayne Amos, he is running for the seat of Cook, which is Cape York and the Torres Strait in the next election up here in Queensland. Mossy's an ex-senior sergeant or senior sergeant in the Queensland Police, and he's done a lot of community work up in Cape York. He is going for the Katter Party on the next election, and his big thing is lowering the price of fuel and food, because the cost of food up in Cape York for some of the Aboriginal communities is obscene, mate. They should not be paying the price that they do. So he's going to try and lower the cost of freight and cartage up to Cape York and the Torres Strait and all that, get subsidies in. It's going to be good. Interesting times ahead, mate. Interesting times ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Cost of living, we need to sort that out. My big thing is that pisses me off with cost of living is we've got these massive mining companies and other companies too paying like no tax, yet we're paying heaps of tax. Like, why are we letting the big guys off with nothing?
Yeah.
And then we're forking it out and we're taking the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Is it Qatar? I think that they don't pay tax in Qatar because of all the oil. They sort of share it so that no one pays tax, and they have all these dental, health, and all these other benefits. Like, why are we not doing this shit,
mate? What I'm concerned about, they are so intent now on getting rid of coal, and what's keeping this country afloat at the moment? It's not manufacturing. It's not education, even though education is one thing that does bring some money into this country. It is coal and iron ore. That is what's keeping this country afloat, mate. And when we get rid of coal, what's going to become of us then, mate? How are we going to make our money? We don't manufacture anything anymore. We're flat out. We build a box trailer. That's about it. We manufacture nothing anymore. So that's
and
gone.
we can't get back into it because of our insurance, red tape, and our wages are too high.
Yeah, electricity and all that. I had a good chat with Luke from Drifter a couple of years ago when we're still talking. But Luke was telling me when he closed the Dot factory down, the Drifter camper trailer factory, he was telling me some of the problems that he was encountering and why he couldn't continue building camper trailers in this country. And it was a real eye-opener, mate. A real eye-opener. Like just the cost of insurances, electricity, people taking sickies and not turning up to work, and all this type of bullshit. People stealing diesel from him. He caught someone stealing diesel from him. He said, I'm giving this bloke a job to support his family, and I caught him stealing diesel from me. He said, what hope have we got? That was a bit of an eye-opener, mate. And, yeah, it's sad, mate. It's sad. Love to see manufacturing come back to this country, but it won't. And as he said, I employ over 100 people, so I get a payroll tax because I employ so many people. He said I should be getting rewarded for employing 100 people.
That's true,
mate. Should be
the
getting
incentive to do it's not there anymore, is it?
Exactly, mate. Exactly right. And I spoke to another guy the other day, an electrician. I said, mate, can you come around and do some work for me? He said, mate, he said, I'm under the pump. He said, I'm 3 months behind. He said, I put apprentices on. And he said, as soon as they get qualified, they piss off to the mines because they get more money. He said, I'm just about on my own now. He said, I can't do it. And he goes, you know what? He said, I don't think I'm going to put on any more apprentices anymore either, because as soon as I spend all the money and the time to train them up, and as soon as they're qualified, they piss off and leave you.
Yep.
He said it's just not worth it anymore. So I don't know. What do you do? What do you do?
We've got problems everywhere. That's our problem. It's like, where do you? Oh, I've gone. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, mate. I can't see you, but yeah.
Camera must have just cut out, gone flat or something. Anyway, we won't go much longer then. But that's one thing, is that we've got so many problems.
Mark Lavelle, have a look at his comment. We make tie-dye at Nimbin. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Tie-dye.
But yeah, we've got that many problems. It's like, where do you start? But
I don't know.
I think the cost of fuel is probably where you do need to start, because as soon as fuel goes up, everything goes up. So and I don't fully understand. I haven't looked into it for a while, but I don't fully understand why fuel is as high as what it is, considering the cost of oil for the barrel.
Yeah, mate. If they're gonna do anything with fuel, if they don't want to do it for everyone, at least do it for the trucking companies and anyone associated with freight. Because if we can bring the cost of freight down, that's going to bring the cost of other stuff down. But the big three, mate: groceries, fuel, and electricity. Let's concentrate on that, because let's face it, those three things affect every one of us here. We all buy groceries. We all got electricity in our house, and 99% of us frigging got to fuel our cars up to drive somewhere. And let's face it, at $2 a litre, and it was up to $2.29, $2.30 a litre not long ago, a lot of people were just not going anywhere. You know, and trucks now, mate, trucking companies that freight stuff up and down the coast, the cost of freight has gone up because they got to fill those bloody trucks up.
Yeah.
And that cost passes on, mate. It passes on to us, the end user.
I recently did a trip from Singleton up the coast to Bundaberg and back, and yeah, the little spot, segues here and there. I spent over $700 just in a ute. I didn't have a load on the back, just on fuel, just going up and back. It was over $700. Yeah. And it was just me.
It's a lot of money, isn't it? And I just heard what you were paying, how much you paid for a house, mate, and how much your repayments are. My God. I just pity the young kids coming up now that friggin' are trying to buy a house in Brisbane or Sydney or Melbourne or Newcastle, Perth, Adelaide. What hope of, like my granddaughter, Ellie, at 16, one day she's going to meet a guy, she's going to get a job, and she's going to want to buy a house. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it, mate. Houses are going to be over $1 million.
Yep.
Absolute bullshit. Absolutely.
Yeah, the only way I can afford to buy a house is to rent the whole house and live at home, and then when I move into the house, I have to rent the other 3 rooms out.
Yeah,
basically to afford it, because by the time I do my repayments, insurance rates, that's 100% of my wage, and apparently I'm in the top 20% wage earners. I'm like, well, how the fuck do people do it that are working at Woolies full time? Even as a couple, full-time working at Woolies. What hope do they have? What's the incentive for people to work then?
I remember go back to my grandparents' day, there was always, you could get by, and even my parents, even though Dad was a cop, Mum was a nurse, Mum didn't always work, but they always had 2 incomes, but usually you could survive on 1 income. He went out to work, Mum looked after the kids, took the kids to school, ran the house, all that type of stuff. I know a lot of women don't want to be doing that now, but that's the way it was. And people survived comfortably on one wage. Now people are struggling on 2 good wages, mate. It's, I don't know. I wish I had the answers to all this shit. If I had the answers, I'd probably be the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has the answers. I don't know. What do we do, guys? Well, I think a good place to start is the politicians need to really have a big think tank about fuel, electricity, and groceries. The 3 big killers. Take the pressure off the average Aussie and then get that under control. And then I think things will start following from there. But and we can't have people going every time there's an EB agreement. Everyone wants there was some mob the other day wanted a 35% pay increase. And I just thought, we were lucky to get a 2.5% pay increase when I was a police officer. We had to threaten to go on strike to get the government to give us 2.5% over 3 years. Now these diddly donks wanted 35% pay increase. They were construction workers. And I'm just thinking,
oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
You're killing us. You're killing the country.
Yeah.
And we can't just keep going, we want higher wages, because higher wages are whacking everything else up.
Well, that's the problem. As soon as you put, like, I know, like, our problem as far as teachers in New South Wales is that our wages have fallen behind inflation in the past. So all that we ask is that we meet inflation. Our argument is that, well, not only the amount of hours, like our job hours has increased, but we're running out of teachers. And what's your answer then? If we fall below in money, more teachers leave, less will come into it. Then what? And we've got a few theories of what maybe the government's where they're trying to get at. I know that, for example, in America, there are now some schools where they teach online. So instead of 1 teacher to 20 or 1 to 30, it's 1 to 100. So some of us are wondering whether that's what our government want. There's also, it's been said a few times that the government are not valuing public education around the country because they actually want to keep people dumb. An example of this is, I know a friend who was a teacher. She went for a job as a screw and she didn't get it, whereas someone who was not as academic as her did get it. And the reason was, you're too academic for this job. You're too much of a thinker. We just need someone to comply.
Yeah. And let me tell you, there are some dumb screws out there, mate. Let me tell you. Dumb ones. Yeah. But, that's a classic example. And even as a copper, mate, when I went to the academy, I only went to year 10. Normally, you wouldn't get in the police with a year 10 education. I got in the back door because I was senior NCO and higher rank in the army. So I came in the side door because of my military qualifications. And I had a friggin' female senior constable from recruiting tell me, you need 200 hours of tertiary education before you can go to the academy. I said, no, I don't. She said, yes, you do. I said, oh, that's a nice photo. I said, no, I was a bloody warrant officer in the army. I don't need to have 200 hours of tertiary education. She said, her last words to me were, you're going to struggle at the academy. Well, I got the Commissioner's Award for best recruit at the academy. And I thought, I wish I could remember that bitch's name. I'd send her an email and go, yeah, I really struggled. I did well academically and I did very well hands-on type stuff and practical type stuff. Those types of jobs, mate, common sense, life experience, same as a prison officer, knowing how to talk to people. Life experience counts for a lot of stuff, mate. Just being able to talk to people and have life experience can get you a long way. I realise as a teacher, you can't go in as a dumb prick and be a science teacher. I get that. There are jobs where you do need to be an academic, doctors and all that type of stuff. But there's a lot of other jobs out there too, mate, where they need to start looking sideways and go, maybe you don't need to go to uni and have a year 12 education to do this job. You just got to have a bit of common dog, as we used to say.
Yeah. So one thing that the New South Wales government does is they really push finishing year 12 and university. I actually say to kids most of the time, like, unless I can see that they're that sort of a kid, I actually say to them, don't. I said, look, why go to year 12 and then become an electrician? And some people disagree with me on this one, and I understand their point, but why go to year 12 and then be an electrician when you can start at the end of year 10? I said, there's 2 years of extra money making.
And they'll teach you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know, mate. I reckon
school is not for everyone, and it's not the be end and end all, whatever it is.
I reckon there was probably one male out of my grade 10 class that went on to university. I joined the army as soon as I turned 17. A couple of us went into the military. Other guys were plumbers, apprentice plumbers, bricklayers, carpenters, blah, blah, blah. And it all went on, as far as I'm aware, to do well for themselves, mate. So we need to get back to a bit of that too. And what are we lacking at the moment? Tradies, mate. Let's and as you said, mate, if some young fella, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to do year 11 and 12. And then what? Oh, I don't know what I'll do after that. I might be a brickie or something. Well, you don't need to go to grade 12 to do that, mate. Like, do well at year 10 and then get into the workforce. And you're going to be a qualified tradesman 2 years earlier than if you're wasted at year 12. And Kaz keeps talking about that on his channel, mate. Like, some people need to go to year 12, some don't. And I've never once regretted not doing year 11 and 12. Not one day in my life have I ever regretted not going through and doing year 11 and 12. It has never hampered me, mate. And there's probably other people in the chat room here, Jack Turtle, and I'm not sure how many other people out here. There's a lot of guys my age in the chat room that probably only went to year 10 as well. Look at Terry G, mate. I know Terry probably hasn't got year 11 and 12, but have a look at the handyman skills and the know-how that bloke's got. A classic example of going to school isn't the be-all, end-all. And
no, well, it's a different way of thinking. Like, I know some people who, this is going much older generations, they might have only gone to year 6, like primary school. They went on, and the things that they could do, academics couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's a different way of thinking, and people have different brains and different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Like, look at a lot of older farmers. They wouldn't go on to do lots of academic thing, but the shit that they can do, others can only dream of.
Well, I'm glad you said that. You just jolted my memory. My dad went to grade 7, which was primary school. He finished primary school, didn't go to high school, and then he joined the council. When he turned 16, he went on to the council, and then in 1953, he became a cop, and he did 30 years in the Queensland Police and became Sergeant First Class, which doesn't exist anymore. It's like a senior sergeant, and he was the officer in charge of the Hervey Bay Police Station. He went to grade 7, mate. And Dad wasn't a smart man, but he used common sense, mate. And he always said that. He said, we've got too many academics and not enough people using their common sense. And I think a lot of people out there will agree with me. I know there's a lot of people out there. I can see names. I've already dropped Terry G into it. We're probably not the smartest people in the world, but we got a bit of common sense, mate. And I think this country's lost the art of using a bit of common sense when we make decisions. Make a decision, use common sense, and make a decision. Don't sit on the fence and not make a decision. Make a frigging decision. And if it doesn't work, then you come up with a way to make sure it does work. And I was always taught that in the army. Better to make the wrong decision than no decision at all. Gets people killed. Yeah.
I'll give you a quick example as well, talking about education. Oh, dog's just coming. Giving a quick example about education. So I can't speak for all governments, but I know the one that I'm in with Indigenous students, because it's a big thing that we track. They only care about Indigenous students finishing year 12. They don't care if they leave in year 10 or year 11 and get a full-time job and go and earn money. Almost in their eyes, if they leave in year 10 or year 11 and go and get a full-time job like a trade, that is failing. They should be going to year 12. How fucked up is that? What are they valuing?
If they leave and become dull bludgers, that's failing. But if they leave and get a good job and contribute to the country, that is not failing, mate. Nothing's failing. If you leave school and you get a good job and you contribute to society, that is not failing. And it doesn't matter what job it is, mate, whether you're a bloody, and I'm not going to mention job names because I don't think any job is more important than any other job. Every job's important. Without one job, the system breaks down. and we look down a bit on certain jobs. And I'll tell you what,
We do, don't we?
Be lost, mate. And I never ever thought me being a copper was any more important than what the cleaner at the school was. We all had a job to do, mate, and without any of us, we all contribute to the big scheme of things. It doesn't matter what you do. So if you're out there, guys, and you think you got a superfluous job, think again. Every job is important, no matter what it is.
I noticed in schools that because there's a hierarchy thing where a lot of teachers look down on teachers' aides. A lot of principals can look down on teachers, and I say to all of them, because I'm a big believer in if you have a good team, everything will work well, and that you don't put each other down, you bring them up. So I always say we're all equal, just in different roles. Because if you didn't have one, the wheels fall off. It's the same as like kids that sometimes they're proud at working at Macca's. I'm like, go for it. If as long as that's what you want to do, you're happy with what you're doing, and good opportunities can come from that as well.
And they do, mate. They do. I started cooking KFC when I was 16 before I went into the army. And a lot of kids that start at Macca's and Hungry Jack's and all this stuff, it's a little springboard. It teaches them how to turn up to work on time, how to take orders from management and make sure you do what, get into a routine and all that type of stuff. Everything helps. It really does. So, yeah.
We might wrap this up, Buck, because we've been going for a few hours. But what I was just thinking, it might do a live feed similar to what you did last night with having people join in, and maybe people can talk a bit about some of the careers that they've done and where they started.
And you know what, I did yesterday, I thought this could go pear-shaped, and it kind of nearly did, but I thought it was good, mate. Having people pop up on the screen that you've never seen before, talk about their town and all that. So Craig from Newcastle and all that, and Colin the fathead. We all know Cole got off to a flyer, but he must have had something on the side there, because by the end of it he was radar. And but it was good, mate. It was bloody. I enjoyed it, and it's good. And I think you need to set a few boundaries and that. But it's good to have people and have everyone's opinion come in there. And don't be frightened to come on, guys. And if you get invited on, come on and say g'day and have your say. Everyone's got different opinions, and you might be sitting here tonight disagreeing with some shit that me and Landy have said and whatever, but come on and have your say, because it creates discussion. And through discussion, as long as we keep it respectful, and as I said, I don't expect everyone to agree with what I've said. I might have said shit tonight that some of you in here don't agree with. That's fine. But
it's okay to have a different opinion.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's come up with some ideas. And sometimes, once again, mate, when I was in the army and say I was the boss, I didn't just sit down and go, everything's going to go the way I'm saying it. I always just sit down and encourage my sergeants and my corporals and my diggers to say, righto, guys, this is what we got to do. Let's get some, what do you reckon? Let's get some opinions. And some of the people would give it like a think tank. And some people come up with some really good ideas. And it's not always the people that are on video, you and me and Fuller and, that run the YouTube channels. Some of you guys out there have probably got some good ideas too. So get on when you get the opportunity. Come on and have your say and say your piece. And I reckon as a community, we can bloody come up with some good ideas. Hopefully the politicians start listening to us one day, and I don't know, because they don't seem to want to apply common sense to a lot of stuff anymore, do they? Some of the decisions coming down range now, we're just sitting back shaking our heads going, how did they come up with that? So,
yeah,
but anyway,
100%.
No, it's good, mate. It's good to have people on, and I came on, but Roz is going, get off. Roz is doing a Mr. P out there going, get off, Rogers. Shut the fuck up. So anyway, I've had my say. I'm sick of, you're all sick of hearing from me. Come on, guys. If you get, Landy gives you a chance to come on and have a say, come on and have your say, and let's bloody nut a few things out. I think it makes a good live feed when you get input from different people, mate.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you very much for joining in, Buck, because I must admit, like, even though I can talk, I sometimes get sick of talking to myself. It helps having that person there that you can you can feed off a bit and talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for everyone joining in the comments as well.
And for the people out there that have never done a live feed, it's not easy sitting in front of a camera and trying to keep the conversation going, guys. It's not for everyone. It's bloody hard. And some of you's on there, Terry and Phil, and that do it. It's not easy. And sometimes you sit there and you think, shit, I've run out of things to say. And you're kind of relying on people in the chat room asking questions, mate. But you're doing a great, mate. Yeah, and you've done it tonight. You've created a conversation. You've created, I wouldn't say controversy, but you've created discussion. And I think it's healthy discussion, mate. Coming up with some good ideas. And everyone loves to have a say. Whether I know people love coming on and even if they just type up what they reckon in the thing, it makes them feel better. I think it's a good thing, mate. Keep going. You're doing a good job.
Oh, thanks for that, Buck. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And thank you everyone for joining in. And hopefully you have a good Mother's Day tomorrow. And well, you should have a very good. Your daughter should have a good Mother's Day tomorrow. Fingers crossed, everything goes well.
Well, she's getting induced. She's getting induced tomorrow, mate, and apparently the birth's going to be Monday, so she's going to just miss out on Monday. But anyway, we're going out to lunch tomorrow with Roz's mum and all of Roz's family, and that's going to be really good. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'll do another one very soon.
Good on you, mate. Keep up the good work, Landy. Bloody and good luck with everything, mate, with your house and all that. You're going through a bit of a bloody, one of those times in your life where it's a bit stressful on that, mate. You punch through the other side, and it'll come good, mate. Keep going. Don't ever lose hope as a teacher, mate. You know what needs to be done. If you all give up, there's no hope for any of us, mate. We need you teachers out there teaching our kids right from wrong and teaching them what they need to be taught, mate. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Good on you, mate.
All right. See you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
See you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.